feel like it goes without saying that with this channel, it's pretty obvious I love video games. And I'm sure with you clicking this video, you will at least like them to some degree. We all have a first game that got us into this hobby, and I'm here to talk about mine. I'm Sexy Jesus, and this is why I love Crash Bandicoot. Now, whether or not this was the very first game I ever played is still up for debate. If I played anything beforehand, I don't remember. I was very young. But this is the one game I remember, like, actually sitting down like, okay, I'm actually gonna try to play something for once. Because it did take me quite a bit before I actually, like, felt up to playing games. Like, I don't know, I was like probably 4 or 5. It's just seeing the games played by other people. And I guess I was afraid, I don't know, but I eventually did start playing Crash, and I'm pretty sure I literally just walked into, like, I either walked into the first crab enemy or I fell in the first hole, either or. It took probably quite a few game overs just to get past that first little bit. Before we get too far into the game, I will say that this is usually when I do these videos I talk about like my favorite game in like a series, but this time around, just because this is my first game, I'm talking about this one. But in reality, my favorite game would be Crash 3. This one definitely started off my love for platformers, which, to be fair, back then a lot of games were platformers. It was very hard to avoid them. To give a quick rundown of the story, you're Crash, the genetically altered Bandicoot. Yes, before this, if it wasn't for this game, I wouldn't know what a Bandicoot is, by the way. But he was altered by Dr. Cortex, the evil scientist who was experimenting on animals to have a mutant army to take over the world. Your sole purpose is to go back to where you escaped and defeat Cortex and save the world, and save Tana, your waifu, your big ol' mommy waifu with the big ol' lump of fruits. But let me tell you, these games were very difficult, especially this one. This one is, they were nice when they made this game. Like, it sort of tricks you, like, if you do get past the first few levels, like, you get to Papupapu, which is, like, the easiest boss in, like, all of video games. But then once you get to Ripperoo, he's, like, if not the hardest, is the second hardest boss in the game. I feel like this one probably has the toughest bosses. Once you get to like 2 and 3, is usually more like the levels are the challenge and the bosses award the break. Taking this coming from someone who's played these games for 20 plus years, so maybe the boss fights are pretty hard like your first time around. I remember having difficulty as a kid, but nowadays they're not too bad. Except for one, I still have trouble with like Ripperoo, and Cortex is probably either the hardest or second hardest. After Ripperoo, you go to Koala, which he ain't too bad once you actually know how to beat him. He's pretty simple. Pinstripe, well, I don't think he's ever meant to be hard. Like, at the very start of the fight, they show you that his one weakness is couch cushions. The only way to stop Tommy gun bullets is Australian leather, apparently. Then it's Brio, and his fight, it can be hard, but I feel like it's more tedious. It's just long-winded, just having to fight the oozes, then jumping and avoiding his elixir throws, and then having to deal with the Hawk version, which admittedly is the easiest part of the fight. And then Cortex, he's either the hardest or the second hardest in the game. I would say he's probably the hardest because of all the stuff you have to avoid, but Ripperoo, because of Ripperoo's camera angle, it kind of throws you off, so it's one of those two. It's really up for debate. Also, it doesn't help that the first game is kind of rough around the edges. It is a little bit more clunkier than 2 and 3. And I guess I have to say 4 now. Like I said, they were really mean when they made this game. Like, considering the fact of how difficult the levels can be at times, the fact that you could go through all this trouble to get all the crates, and then get to the end and realize, oh, you still don't get the gem because you died once. That is one of the things I will say about the remakes, is the fact that they removed that and you don't have to worry about the deaths anymore in the first game. It made the game a lot better, in my opinion. But I will still say that the first original PS1 version is still worth playing just for the atmosphere alone. Like, go and play Up the Creek and look at the water and listen to the music. Tell me that's not one of the most atmospheric levels in a PS1 game. That is definitely one of the game's upsides. Is the music is fantastic, and the just the graphics, the actual backgrounds of the levels, it's all really pretty, especially considering that it is PS1. I mean, obviously you can play Insane Trilogy and see it all updated, but PS1 still holds up pretty well. The Great Wall is also a great level when it comes to atmosphere. It's really nice. But yeah, the game's really pretty, but it also, like I said, it is very punishing. You'll find that the difficulty spikes can be a little random at times. Like, obviously when you get up into the game, the difficulty is harder, but every once in a while there's always that level that's just a bit more difficult than what you were expecting. I guess the first example, which is kind of pushing it, would be Boulder Dash. The boulder levels tend to be pretty simple, but for someone who's like new to the series, running backwards may feel a bit different, and I can imagine would throw their perception off quite a bit, which is the only reason why I would throw the boulder levels into the difficult category. Wild Hog, the hog levels are the only vehicle levels in the game. Those are very fast and frantic, so yeah, those can be quite difficult. Like, even if you have the patterns down, you still have very little room for error when it comes to those. So I can imagine a kid or someone new having the time of their lives with those levels. There's Road to Nowhere, which is one of my personal annoying levels, the bridge levels. You have to deal with ice and wild hogs on the bridge because you have very little room to move. You're basically either going forward or backwards. That's all the real options you have, unless you're kind of cheeky and you use the rope to your advantage. But those levels are quite difficult, especially when you have to rely on like bouncing on the turtle shells. Also, Sunset Vista, those levels can be difficult. I'm saying those levels because I can't quite remember all the Sunset Ruin level names, but I'm pretty sure one of those has a big stretch where there's no checkpoint, so that often gave me trouble. But other than that, they're not too bad, but I'll still count them as difficult. And of course, Slippery Climb, that one is pretty rough. Thank God Stormy Ascent wasn't in the OG game, because I can tell you this, kid me would never have been able to get past it. I played it on Insane Trilogy and I used up, I want to say, like 40 lives trying to do it. It's a very hard level. That's honestly like the hardest level in like the whole series, and I've played Crash 4, and yeah, it's pretty bad. Now that I think about it, I don't even think Kid Me could even collect up to 40 lives, so yeah. I would say that it's probably a safer bet to get Insane Trilogy if you don't want to go, well, insane. Especially if you're going to get the game for like your kid or something. Better of an experience. But I would still say to definitely try out PS1. Which, I'll admit, I've never completed the PS1 version to 100%. I hate myself, but not that much. Originally, I thought to just make a video based on the whole series, but I decided to just focus on the first game, so maybe I'll do a video like talking about all the games at some point. I don't really think there's a whole lot more I can truly say beyond just, oh, this was my first game, because I feel like at least a majority of the people have heard of the series or have seen it. You know what it is. You're just breaking boxes. It's just a series that's been with me since day one and will probably be with me until I leave the mortal realm, if you will. Because I can guarantee that the series ain't gonna die anytime soon. I'm sure we're all waiting for old Crash 5 to come out, because Crash 4 was fantastic. I'll say that. So yeah, that's about all I really have to say. Just sort of a quick video this time around. Let me know what your first video game was. Your favorite Crash game. Whatever you want, just leave a comment, and I may leave a friendly thumbs up. I know I should probably say more, but I can't really think of much more than just to acknowledge that it was my first game series, and I just really like Crash Bandicoot. But it's not like it's the Da Vinci Code, alright? This isn't Kingdom Hearts. It's just Crash. You're jumping on boxes. It's great. Go play it. If it's your first platformer, or if it's your kid's first platformer, you might want to find an easier game though. These games can be quite challenging and quite frustrating. I will say that. But that's all I have to say. So until the next video, guys, I'll see you. Yeah.